right, welcome back. On this episode of Bone Apple Tea, we have an interview with Jon Lindinger, and he is probably one of the most well-read people I've ever met.
Yeah, for sure.
He's also vegan, so that does come up. Obviously, we talked to him. He's extremely well-read, so everything he says, there's a reason behind everything he does, and he's probably one of the few people I know who are vegan and does it the right way.
Yeah.
He knows what to take in terms of supplements, and he knows what to eat in terms of food to actually successfully do it. So if you're curious about that, we talk about that in depth in this episode. He also has a business based around kind of like his YouTube channel, Xeno Theory.
Yeah. He's got a series. He also does the Down the Rabbit Holes on Instagram.
Yep, the Down the Rabbit Hole series. And then he also has a system for self-analysis that he is selling as a product, basically a way to help you kind of organize your life and kind of get from your life as opposed to getting through your life. And we go through into what that means in this episode.
Yeah. And I like this because, last week we had a carnivore. This week we have a vegan. So it's a good contrast.
Yep.
And the artist feature of the week is from Currents, local CT band actually, but they're actually kind of huge.
Yeah, they're pretty big.
And the song is Poverty of Self.
Yeah. All right. Enjoy.
We got that band Currents to feature one of their songs.
Cool.
Which is kind of huge.
Oh, yeah.
I'm very excited
that was
about
pretty sweet.
They're like, hold on, I'll show you some of their macros, man, because it's kind of crazy. You know how Spotify went and they did
macros?
Yeah, I was like...
Isn't that what it's called? Is that not what it's called?
Like macronutrients?
Yeah, it was like what, high protein, high fat.
That's what I think.
Yeah, so they mainly follow a high carb diet, actually. No. So have you heard of Currents? They're from like a local CT.
Of course.
Okay. So they're, I kind of know their guitarist, Chris Wiseman.
Yeah, I've been on tour with him.
Oh, yeah.
A few times.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh, so you know. So then you probably saw that then.
Those aren't macros, but yeah.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I guess that's a cool way to characterize them.
Isn't that what you would call the data? Their macros?
No, I don't think so.
Right? There's like micro data and then there's macro data. And their macro data would be their 8.3 million streams. And
I would look at that as micro data. What would constitute macro data?
Yeah.
That?
I don't know. Maybe I'm ignorant to classification of data.
Of data?
In terms of like terminology. I don't really know.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of came out and I'm trying to justify it, to be honest. So... At least, hey, if we're being honest here.
Yeah, dude, stand for your principles.
Yeah.
I like it. Macros.
Yeah, which actually
threw me for a whirl. Speaking of macros.
Yeah, speaking of macros, actually, because so I want to touch on it quickly because last week, if you're listening to the podcast, last week we had a carnivore on.
Okay.
And you're my one vegan friend who's actually doing it right.
Mm-hmm.
So run people through a typical day of how to actually approach veganism correctly, because I know there's a lot of people that all they do is cut out meat and then they just keep eating pasta and cheese, or not cheese, right? But just pasta. Right. And it's that's not the way to be. So lay on the knowledge.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a huge question, but I didn't start doing it correctly until I was probably about 3 years in, unfortunately.
Wow. And wait, how many years are you vegan right now?
Over 5.
Over 5. Okay.
So it was 5 in August.
Nice.
And I didn't, so obviously when I first started, I went vegetarian for, I want to say 2 or 3 months. And then.
What was the purpose, by the way? Sorry, just as in
it was actually ethics. So it wasn't, at first I justified it by saying health and ethics. We'll get into the health part secondly. Mm-hmm. First it was ethics. Everybody always knows the slaughterhouse footage that circulates and things like that. And
sure.
I, in refinement of my principles, I didn't want to turn my face away from truth. Mm-hmm. So I felt like a hypocrite if I would let that area of my life sit where I was confronted with a blunt reality with things and I turned my back on it for emotional comfort. I didn't like the fact that I did that. I felt a deep unease with myself that I did that. So I decided to watch, I guess, those documentaries, and there's millions of them floating around now. I decided to watch those documentaries, and then I kind of got enlightened to what was going on. And then my only, I guess, obstacle that was inhibiting me from a full vegan lifestyle this was in 2013. It wasn't really that popular. It wasn't really that mainstream, especially not in the fitness world. So I've always been really big into fitness. I've lifted, I guess you would say, in a bodybuilding style for hypertrophy for many years. And I didn't really see it discussed in the mainstream thing. You always hear the classic, okay, chicken breast, broccoli, white rice, or brown rice, whatever, eggs, all these things, whey protein. And I was doing all that. And I didn't see anybody that was vegan that was, either looked healthy or was performing well until I did a little bit of research and I found some things online. And that seeing like those individuals online in 2014, even if I didn't know them personally, I knew it was potentially able to be attained.
It's like, it's possible.
Yeah,
exactly.
Like someone else is doing
it's
it.
Good
So
to
it's
see.
not
Exactly.
Like,
And there's a quote from Aurelius. He says, if it's humanly possible, do not consider impossible what is humanly attainable. So it's like, if someone else can do it, you can do it. Right.
For sure.
And I decided to kind of dive in. I was vegetarian for about 2 months before that. And then I cut out like the meat and the eggs. That was the only thing I was eating. And admittedly, I was doing a shitty job at first. I was doing like the processed meat, like the fake meat, all this bullshit.
Yep.
A lot of pasta, a lot of just like refined carbohydrates. I didn't really know any better.
Yeah.
My genetics kind of saved me on that.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie, dude.
I was gonna say, you're like
Not
pretty
gonna
in
lie.
shape, so
Because even when I would eat meat, I would eat shit fast food, and I would still like be shredded. So it was kind of unfair.
Dope, dude. It's a tough life, man. It's a tough life. So I was handed this shredded body.
Yeah. To further rub it in, I've
Built on
never
Big
not had
Macs
abs in my life. Anyways, so yeah, I actually fucked up in the beginning. I didn't do it correctly. And then I decided to do a lot more research, and I was listening to podcasts, and really I started to look at what nutrients are typically devoid in a vegan and vegetarian lifestyle.
That's
and then I would look at like main groups, okay, iron, zinc, et cetera. And then I would look at the plant-based counterparts for those nutrients to fill in those voids. And I would also look up like prominent authors or researchers or podcast hosts that I would be fond of, and I would search their name and then just like vegan in Google, and I would look at their advice on vegan lifestyles and things like that. Like Dr. Rhonda Patrick is one. She's been on Joe Rogan. She's brilliant, and then she like you could even search that on YouTube, and I'll look at her stuff and like what she recommends to vegan, and I'll like okay, I'll take your word for it. Like she's a PhD, she's brilliant. And then I started doing that, filling in those voids. I've always tracked my calories pretty consistently for, I want to say 4 years now, almost 5 years probably.
Yeah, I remember you were the first one to tell me about MyFitnessPal way back in the day. Because you had asked me, like, do you ever track? And I'm like, no. Yeah. And you're like, well, download MyFitnessPal. And I was really resistant to that for years. And then I finally was like, all right, I should probably check that out.
Yeah.
Surprising because you brought up macros for Spotify. So I'm surprised you don't track.
I know.
It's just so funny how like lacking or for the longest time, just exercising, I didn't even think like, oh man, maybe I'm just not eating enough food, because in high school I was just like shredded, but I wasn't huge. I could lift weight, but I wasn't like huge. It's the same thing. It's just like, oh shit, you have nutrition.
Yeah, right. That's right. That other key component.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a long time in the making. Like I said, about 3-4 years kind of went by. I was eating a lot of processed shit, and I didn't really feel the detriments toward those things. So I think that's why it kind of took me so long to kind of look really deep into research on like what I'm missing out in so far as nutrients. I would do blood work. All my blood work was always fine.
Do you feel better now though? Like after implementing?
That's a hard question because it's been so many years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I always get that question.
Like sometimes, you feel like shit, but you just think it's normal because it's been happening for so long. And then like
that's
you change something and you're like, oh crap.
Yeah. I would say the most prominent thing I noticed was I felt lighter, if that made sense. Like I wasn't physically lighter, but I did feel lighter. I know a lot of people say, oh, you go vegan, you lose weight, et cetera. But I always kept my calories really high. I was always like prominent of ensuring that adequate input of calories. So I always track my data. I'm really big on data. I look at data throughout the year and I have these wearable devices. They tell you your heart rate, tell you your calories and things like that. I always try to be like, personally, for my genetics and my metabolism, I try to be about 1,000 calories surplus every day. Okay. I don't know how accurate this these wearables are, but
I mean, I've heard that debate, but it's like at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter how accurate it is. It matters like as long this is consistent.
Yeah, it's consistently if it's inaccurate, it's consistently.
You
off
want to be
by the same
commensurately
number.
in a surplus.
If you're using it as a reference, you know what I mean.
Exactly.
As long as it's consistent, then
exactly. And then so like, what were some of your biggest challenges that like you were like, oh, like I have to go get this and I have to make my calories the same. Like what were some of like the big hitting points that you were like, all right, this is actually something I have to go out and find and I have to go and do this specific thing? to do it. Does that make sense?
Insofar as, what do you mean, nutrients?
Like, for example, like someone who eats meat like myself, I find it very easy to consume protein. But when I look at something like a vegan diet, I would find that it's, lackluster in terms of like complete proteins or just like a lot of protein in general. So I imagine like, unless you're eating beans all the time, you probably have other things to navigate how much protein you're taking.
Like, this is something that I've benefited from tracking, is that there's a lot of protein that just adds up throughout the day. So like if you have like something trivial before your workout, like you want some carbohydrates, you'll have a slice of whole wheat bread with some peanut butter or something like that. You'll get a decent amount of protein from that, and you keep adding these up. You put them in your MyFitnessPal, and then at the end of the day, I usually average around 180, 190 grams of protein. I mean,
that's pretty good, actually.
Yeah, some people say it could be higher. It should be a gram per pound of body weight, et cetera. But it's average around 150, or like I said, 190. And I do supplement with protein powder.
I was actually about to
I do
ask
supplement
you.
with protein powder. I've always done that. Like even when I wasn't vegan, when I ate meat, I did do that as well. So I do that. So that is a source of complete protein. I know that's like a whole
debate. I mean, that's like I think that's probably one of the most effective ways for vegans to get complete proteins is through supplement of powder of some kind.
I mean, I actually use like a vegan protein powder myself.
Thrive, right? By Legion?
Yeah, because it's easier for me on my stomach. If I take a whey protein powder, I usually get a little gassy. So, but yeah, I mean, I think, okay, so do you supplement with anything safe for a protein powder? Or you just, besides that, it's just all like straight foods?
Oh, I do take other supplements because
there's a couple things, at least that I've heard about. Like, I think, what's it called? Like fat soluble vitamins and like omega-3s and that kind of stuff. I know flax seeds are good for that, but I think you have to eat a decent amount of them.
There's that, and then there's walnuts. But the thing with those, with like the omegas from nuts and seeds, for example, which could be actually detrimental, is that if people don't soak them, if they are just raw or if they are roasted, if they are not soaked, they actually carry something called phytic acid. PHYTIC acid, and that actually inhibits the absorption of zinc and iron.
Yes.
So that's actually counterproductive. Yeah. That's actually counterproductive. So what I do is I buy sprouted nuts and seeds online.
Those are like the best, dude. Sprouted broccoli, sprouts are good.
So they've been pre-soaked, or I'll sometimes buy them raw and I pre-soak them. So for example, another thing you should do is oatmeal. You can look up, there's things like oatmeal is actually one of the foods that are highest in phytic acid. So I soak that as well before I put it in my nighttime smoothie. I soak it in the morning for 8 hours, and then by the time night comes around, I rinse it and wash it. So yeah, to answer that question, I do take omegas as well because I don't want to like load up with the nuts and then I can inhibit absorption of iron and zinc and other things. There's also taurine and zinc. Like a supplement with zinc, the omega, and then taurine as well, because those are things that are typically devoid of a vegan diet.
Yeah. See, this is why
you got your bases covered.
Yeah, this is why I knew. I knew that you had your bases covered, which is why like most people are not thinking about that. Like the other vegans I know are like their dinner is like some beans and a side of rice. You know what I mean? And that's like one meal they have all day. Yeah. Oh, dude, yeah, There's this one woman I know that she claims to be vegan, but she eats pasta and cheese. But that's all
exclusively.
She eats. Exclusively. And I'm like,
optimum.
Yeah. But yeah, see, that's like such a good point because there's a lot to consider as far as just like, because like meat really does have a lot of like nutrient dense properties. So it's like if you are going to cut it out, it is non-trivial, and you should actually give it some consideration if that's like what you're about. Now, what have you ever heard of anti-nutrients? Is that like a phrase that you've heard
of? Phytic acid would be one of them.
Yeah, would be one
right?
of them.
Is that what? Is that?
Yeah. That is one of them. But so the only reason why I bring this up is because this is like the huge carnivore argument.
Yeah,
that,
now
like,
everybody's talking about anti-nutrients, this and that. And
it's almost like a buzzword at this point, where like people are like, oh, well, like plants are actually full of anti-nutrients, and so therefore they're toxic for the body. So like, what's your kind of thought on that?
The only anti-nutrient I have heard of is phytic acid. And again, there's
like lectins and like there's a whole list.
Yeah. But a lot of them you can mitigate and like circumvent a lot of that through soaking and through being responsible in preparation of your food.
That's what I've so now I'm on your side with that because I'm also
this is just because we
no. This is me attacking. This is because I eat plants. The only difference between me and you is that I just have meat. You know what I mean? But I eat an abundance of plants.
Yeah.
And so when I do talk to people that are carnivore, they bring these things up and they say, well, plants are actually full of anti-nutrients. I'm like, well, I don't think that's really that big of a concern.
It's just strange because I mean, I don't know. Personally, I pay like very close attention to how I feel after I eat foods, and just for somebody to just have a sweeping blanket statement like, "Can't believe people eat vegetables." Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, what do you mean you can't believe people eat vegetables?
I've never heard that, but that's the opposite end of the spectrum of veganism. I mean, you can see people that are ideologically possessed by the idea of it, and a lot of it is not insofar as an individual choice they've made from research and from like something that's congruent with their goals and their lifestyle. And they will latch onto this movement in attempts to be morally superior to their peers.
Yeah.
Now, do you think, sorry, go ahead.
I see this in both ends of the spectrum. I see this a lot in veganism, of course, which I don't like. I'm not a fan of. And that's one of the reasons I went vegan in the first place was a conclusion of independent thought. So I don't like to see people that they just see a post on Instagram like, okay, I'm going to go vegan. I'm going to just do this. And I'm going to posit myself as morally superior and ethically superior to those who disagree with my dominant narrative. But the thing is, if you question them on their narrative, they will have an answer for you. They'll have to turn back to a documentary and point you to that. They'll have to turn back to a prominent thinker and point back to that. They'll have to turn back to, I don't have this. I wasn't sufficiently prepared for this question because it's not part of my identity, because I'm ideologically possessed by a movement.
It's true though. It's very true because you'll talk to certain people and like, it's hard to have a discussion with someone when you're like, somebody's like, oh yeah, this causes cancer or whatever. And I'm like, and they're and we'll have a discussion about it. And they're like, yeah, just watch the documentary. I'm like, dude, you're telling me that you heard somebody say this. And these things are funded, but you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Each one of these is funded by somebody that has some sort of agenda. I'm saying like, I went online and just looked at raw data for hours and hours. So this isn't like this is a one-sided argument right now. You know what I'm saying? So, and that's the thing. It's like, people think, like, none of us have a dog in the fight. It's not like, I'm making money off of it, or I need you to do this. It's like, I just want people to be healthy. Think about what you're doing before you do it,
Yeah. And like for the argument of carnivorism, I understand people that have these like, autoimmune issues, and carnivorism allows them to alleviate those issues. But that's a pretty specific group set of people to me. Yeah. And to take something and say like everyone should be doing it, I think is like, it's a pretty big jump.
Yeah.
Even that with veganism, admittedly, which is like I said earlier when you asked me why I went vegan, I said ethics and health, and I'll get into health after. Because I've seen a lot of studies and seen a lot of prominent podcasters and people that are very credible, and I trust their research, I trust their results, and people that have, like, for example, posted their blood work publicly and they've been eating like a omnivorous diet for many years, and they're immaculate, right? And so there's a lot of genetic components to this, something called undermethylation and overmethylation, which dictates how much meat you're able to process. There's a book called Biochemical Individuality. I forget the author. There's also a book called The Jungle Effect, which is positing that you should eat based on essentially your genetics and your heritage, like what kind of food was prevalent in that area from your ancestors from growing up and things like that. So there's no optimum, and this is actually something I believed for a while when I was dogmatically and ideologically possessed by veganism. I would say everybody should be vegan, period. Like, period. Yep. You know what I mean? And then if they were attacking it, like, oh, you're ignorant, you're going to get cancer. You know what I mean? Because
I think I remember that phase.
Everybody goes through.
I remember that phase of Jon.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still just as passionate about it, don't get me wrong, but for me, so it's more on the ethical side. It's not really on the health side. Like, if people hunt, I have seen, like I said, the researchers and scholars and everything like that, they'll post their blood work. Like Rhonda Patrick, for example, she eats a lot of steak and wild-caught salmon and eggs, and she explains in deep detail, like way over my head, the benefits of them. And there's, I'm partly at odds for this because, one, I don't know, there's always the potentiality that it's funded by the industry. You know what I mean? Like there's Cowspiracy actually pointed this out, where like they go to, like, I think that he went to dairy farms and things like that, and they were talking about cancer and how they'll like selectively fund. It was just weird, sketchy shit. So I really never know with research, but with so I'm humble enough to say I don't know if it's like there's like an optimal health aspect of veganism versus being an omnivore, for example.
Now, what about, so I know like you talk about, and I'm always curious about this because eggs to me, like if you get a free, is it free range? Is that like the freest chicken? Is it
Pasture
free?
raised.
Pasture raised, I believe,
pasture-
is the best because I
pasture
think
raised,
free
okay.
range,
Free range are
is
still-
still very
yeah.
confined or something like
It's
that.
just a bigger
Is it,
cage.
Yeah,
is it
exactly.
cage,
Cage
is it
free
cage
is just
free?
it's a bigger cage.
It's just a
not
bigger cage.
It's
Yeah.
not cage free.
Yeah.
Look it
Okay,
up.
so
Unless they
it's
specify, pasture raised is, I think, the
Is
best.
the top tier?
Yeah, probably
So
3 times the price of a normal egg. But
Okay.
it's
But-
see, this is why I like, but I'd buy it. Is the thing. It's like if I'm
Yeah.
gonna buy an egg, and
Sure.
it's nice too because we have people even at work like that just have chickens, so they just bring in tons and tons of eggs.
Yeah, they really
and
do.
like you know what I mean. They love their chicken, so I'm like perfect. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Are you asking my ethical analysis
so
of that?
I was gonna be, because that was gonna be my question, because like essentially it's like, I mean, we know the eggs that are pasture raised, they're dark orange, right? They're not
Right.
yellow
It's-
like the
yeah.
ones that you
Yeah.
get in the farms, and so it's full and more rich of omega-3s
Sure.
and has
Choline.
good choline, good protein profile.
Cholesterol.
Good cholesterol
fats.
anyway, and then
Precursor to testosterone. Yep.
yeah, so there's a lot of good stuff there, and if you're getting it more the pasture raised, obviously
Yeah.
humane.
It's very much
that's a happy
Exactly.
chicken.
Yeah.
you know?
Exactly.
So, would there ever be a potential that you throw eggs back into the mix, or like is it just like
I don't see the ethical issue with that. That's
Mhm.
actually, and a lot of, I said this, I was talking about this on Instagram the other day. A lot of vegans actually give me shit for that because I'll say, I don't, like, if people want to do that, like, that's fine. I don't see anything against that. And then they're like, they'll make up some weird argument of like, I saw this YouTuber talk about it. He was like, you're initiating a, what's the word he used? An abusive relationship with the animal, something weird like
my
that. Like,
God.
I'm like, what the fuck are you talking? Like, he's ideologically possessed.
You're
He's trying
making
to
something out
justify,
of
like,
nothing.
what you were doing, like jokingly in the beginning, talking about macros, and you're like diving deeper into this whole.
I'm like digging myself.
Yeah, exactly.
deeper. I'm
And
like,
you just won't admit, like,
macro statistics.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. So ethically, I see nothing wrong with that. But
Yeah.
personally, I don't think I would, unless like I saw like a crazy nutrient deficiency in my diet or something like that.
Mhm.
I don't know. It's just, if you think about it, it's technically a menstrual cycle discharge.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it's,
Oh, yeah.
it's
Try
a
not
hen
to,
period,
but-
kind of.
Yes,
That's kind of
exactly.
weird.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I wouldn't want to watch a hen lay the egg and be like, oh, cool. And then crack it. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh, thanks.
I don't know. Yeah, right. Like,
Woo.
so that's my only thing with that. But
Yeah.
and there's another thing, for
that's fair.
example, like shellfish. That's a big thing in the vegan debate, is because they don't have a central nervous system. They
Mhm.
can't feel pain, and
Really?
yeah, they don't.
You're telling me a lobster doesn't?
Okay,
feel
no,
when
sorry,
you
sorry,
boil
sorry.
it?
Sorry, bivalves. Sorry.
Oh,
So
like muscles and
mussels,
clams and stuff.
clams, what's the other one? Scallops.
Scallops.
scallops. Okay.
So they don't have a central nervous system. They can move, but it's like a reaction to stimuli, very similar to a plant, like a Venus flytrap. You touch it, it'll close
Yeah.
up.
Oh
Yeah.
shit.
They don't
that's
have.
very true.
There's no central nervous system.
Oh, I didn't even know this debate was going on. This is
Yeah.
super interesting.
Yeah,
for me.
because some vegans will like vegans will eat that, and like ethically,
Oh.
personally, I don't see anything wrong with that.
Yeah.
You can actually argue that so you know how they cleanse the sea around them.
yeah.
Mhm.
There's spots in the ocean called dead zones, and you can make this argument from a supply and demand perspective of the more you're buying them, it's actually cleaning up the ocean. So you could ethically make that argument, like,
There you
oh,
go.
vegans
Yeah, 'cause
should
they
do that if
farm
they care
more
about
of
the
them, and
argument.
then it's
Yeah,
like
exactly.
supply the demand.
But then they're like,
Uh.
oh, it's again, people can say like, what's the word I use? Abusive relationship or whatever with it.
Okay.
And it's like, what the fuck are you
Abuse,
talking about?
like
Yeah.
how deep are
What
we
are you
getting
talking
here?
about?
What do you
Like,
mean
It's
abusive
explaining a tree,
relationship?
Yeah.
an abusive relationship. I
Yeah.
don't know, that's
Wow.
So
Oh.
well. See, yeah, that's cool.
so
Because
that's another thing. So I'm open minded to that. You know what I mean?
Huh.
I don't eat them, but if I felt the need to or the desire to, I wouldn't feel ideologically possessed and like look at my vegan cult and be like, hey guys, is this okay? You know what I mean? It's-
Yeah. Well, that's a
Yeah.
good way to
Stupid.
be, man. That's a really mentally healthy way to be,
Yeah,
too.
for sure.
Yeah.
Because, like, all I'm thinking about is like some of the best restaurants in the world would serve you like a scallop, like, appetizer or something.
I've never had them. What do they taste like?
scallops.
Oh my god,
Oh,
they're really good.
I
Well,
mean-
actually, they don't taste like much. It's more
Yeah.
so the consistency, and then
Okay.
you cook them in.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
they're
was gonna say
usually.
butter, but
Yeah, I guess that's shit.
No, dude, nope.
No butter.
never
No
mind.
butter.
They
Yeah.
taste like
butter.
but olive oil, right?
Yeah, you could use
So-
olive oil.
you could use
Sure.
olive oil.
Okay,
Sure.
so it's like
There you
olive
go.
oil soaked.
Actually, no, you're supposed to use olive oil colder, but
What do
Oh.
you mean?
you're not supposed to cook with it.
Oh,
Really?
yeah, it does have a low smoke
Inflammatory,
point.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's inflammatory if you cook with it.
Really?
Yeah.
That's all I cook with.
No, you're fucked up, dude.
Really?
Just cook with like ghee or something.
Yeah. Well, all we have
I
is
think
olive
coconut
oil.
I think
Coconut
it's-
oil?
too.
Yeah, there's differentiation between like cold pressed and refined versus unrefined. I don't know all that, but
Oh
look
shit!
into
I
it
might
for cooking.
switch to coconut oil then. Is that a thing?
We have a ton of it. So
We
if you
do?
want- yeah, we have
I might start cooking with that then.
So
I didn't
like
know.
cooking
It does
certain
kind of
things in
flavor
coconut
things
oil.
though, doesn't it?
It does. That's why I cook
That's
only
right.
certain things with the coconut oil. But
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Try it.
what would you use olive oil for? Like dressing on salad
Salad,
pretty much? Okay.
put it on top of a lot of things. Yeah.
Hmm.
Pretty
Wow.
much everything, dude. I could just honestly just take a spoon. Shit's so good
Wow.
for you.
Jesus. Are you Italian?
Yeah. I mean, I'm
Hey!
Lebanese. Mediterranean. So,
Yeah, it still
same
works.
shit.
It still works.
Yeah. So see, I like that though because it's good. Like I feel like from a health perspective, it's hard to argue or blanket statement any type of diet. You know,
Mhm.
basically whatever works. More like ethically and morally, like you can't argue that with anyone. You know what I mean? If somebody is decided like that's the reason why, it's like you can't argue morals with someone and really like it's hard to disagree. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So. I feel like that part is like okay, I understand. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Less so if somebody tries to argue violently in the direction of this is the only way people should be
Mhm.
eating because of health
Right.
reasons, like
Yeah, because
Yeah.
like you said, like I mean, the gut, everyone's gut is like their fingerprint.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so it's like it's hard to. I mean, that's why it's so confusing. That's why people are like, oh, well, I tried keto and it worked for me,
Yeah.
and I'm like, well. I mean, you're probably eating too many carbs, but I'm glad that you found a diet that works for you. You know, but I think we can stray away from the vegan stuff because I think that was good. I thought that was a really good convo about that. I do want to hear more about. So, is this whole xenotherapy? Is that like a business? Like, how do you approach that and like tell people about that don't know about it?
So again, that's a very large question.
Oh yeah, hey, I mean, we're asking the heavy hitters tonight.
So xenotherapy is a business that it's more so of an idea or concept. I mean, it is an LLC, like it is a business.
Yep.
But it's a concept that I've established over the course of my life since I want to say 2011. So you can compartmentalize that into two sides. So xeno and theory. Xeno meaning a prefix for foreign or something from an outside source or differing in origin. And theory, obviously, self-explanatory theory. So your philosophy that's attached to that. And xeno is the name of my conceptual archetype or somebody that's embodied my highest ideal. So, for example, Plato's theory of the forms. Are you guys familiar? They probably did that in college. Did you explain any of that?
I am not. So I don't know you.
And I'm going to guarantee you that if anyone's listening to this, they probably don't.
You got to enlighten us right now.
That's fine. So, very short philosophy lesson. Plato's theory of the forms states that, okay, there's one level of physical reality we exist in, but there's also a form that is the ideal of that object that we are observing. So this is the physical table. This is the physical mic. There's a form of the table in the universe. It's the perfect version of it. There's a form of a friendship in the universe. It's like you get it. It's the ideal version of something. Like the perfect.
Okay.
But it can only be experienced in the conceptual realm. You can't actually reach it in physical reality. So it's like an endless goal, if you will. And I couple that with the dichotomy between Fibonacci and phi. And again, I don't want to go down any rabbit holes, but Fibonacci and phi is nature's way of chasing and emulating the infinite ratio that is the phi ratio, 1.6180339, etc. You can look at phi as the form of existence, rather, not just like the form of one thing. It's the form of existence. You can find the Fibonacci ratio, 1 to 1.618, ubiquitous all over nature, all over plant life, insect life,
I've actually
animal.
seen a lot about that.
That's this
The
tattoo
spot.
right here. the
Yeah,
spiral
you
here.
have it. Yeah, that's cool.
So, anyways, you look at that. You look at Plato's theory of the form. You look at phi, and I can like substantiate this in like a dozen different ways. But anyway, you get the idea. It's like something perfect, and I've named that version of myself Xeno. So that's actually what this tattoo on my hand is right here. It says Xeno, and
That's cool, man.
Shit.
so you say Xeno theory, and I fortified it as I can look at it in a timeline. I created the Twitter. I don't use the Twitter, but I created the Twitter in February 2012. So that shows me how early I was thinking about this. And it got me out of very rough psychological circumstances by striving to attain this ideal. So that's why I created the form Xenotherapy and why I decided to kind of market it and created a business was that I found that there was a very prominent need for people to ameliorate their lives if they're trying to live a life that is meaningful and fulfilled. So I created Xenotherapy with the intention to help broken people lead more meaningful and fulfilled lives through study and self-discipline.
So I actually wanted to ask you because I noticed recently, I can't remember exactly what it's called, but you were talking about how you dropped like a system of attacking.
System for self-analysis.
Yes. And so I'm like pretty obsessive about tracking things myself. And one of the biggest things, I feel like this happens with a lot of people who have a lot of ambitions and they want to plan, like they're like, oh, I want to do all these things. But if you don't have an organized system of attacking them, then as soon as things get hectic, things go to the wayside. You lose track of things very easily. And then you end up doing very little for a bunch of things as opposed to, maybe stepping through them. And I struggled myself with like, how do I organize what I'm tracking in a way that is easy to read if I wanted to look back at it and basically take out of it, right? So if I'm doing this for a purpose, like, am I actually making progression here? If I'm not, what can I change? Can I see it in the data? That kind of thing.
Right.
So I guess, could you explain kind of what your system would be used for? I feel like sounded like something similar for helping somebody.
Yeah, sure. So I've created that system after the weekend of March 22nd, 2015, with the intention to measure more of my life. Temperamentally, I love data. I've always been very rigid and structured. Discipline has always been kind of second nature for me in some aspect of my life. So I created that system and I've refined it over years and years with the attempts to measure my life and have more control over and certainty over where I was headed. So there's that saying, you can't change your destination overnight, but you can always change your direction overnight. So it always orients me in the correct direction. And I think there's a very important dichotomy that there's two types of people in life. The first types of people try to get through life, which I think is very bad. And I think it's a very poor decision. And I think it's out of fear. And the second types of people try to get from life. The only way to get from life is to extract data from it, is to write things down, is to collect things, is to recount your memories, is to, you know what I mean? Like, organize something. So you need to have something tangible in front of you to kind of recollect your life. So that is essentially literally the story of my life I have on paper. I have something written down since every day, Sunday, March 22nd, 2015, that is useful information. So I can say for example, some things that I write down every day are, what could I have improved today? What could I have done better today? What did I learn today? What's a key principle that I've extracted from the day? I also keep track of my macronutrients. I also keep track of my disciplines. If I read that day, if I exercised that day, if I meditated that day. So I get my percentages by the end of the year. I can say, oh, I read 60% out of the year. I exercised 80% out of the year. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I love that.
And then I can set metrics.
Holy shit, that's like really cool.
I was gonna say,
it's very detailed.
And it helps, like, self-awareness is huge. Just in terms of like, if you want to progress as a person, and if you don't, then become more self-aware. But but I guess what would be like if somebody wanted to start journaling, or just, at least
me. I want to start journaling.
Yeah, as like a, I feel like that's an introduction to this. It's like,
okay.
And I know it can be something as very basic and straightforward as long as you start it. But I guess what would be your like tips for somebody if somebody wanted to get into that kind of stuff? Or
so I would first recommend, and this is actually part of the system that I have, it's 3-part in nature. First, you have like a foundation. So it's asking yourself, like, deep introspection, what do you want out of life? Why do you want to track? And it's going to dictate your goals, your values. Like, it's going to establish a hierarchy so you know how to, one, not only consume in the world, but you know, more importantly, what to ignore in the world. Because that's just as important, right?
Yeah, for sure. Saying no is very powerful.
So then from that exercise, from your introspection, from your self-analysis, you're going to establish kind of like an ideal, like a xeno of yourself, a version of yourself. And then you can ask yourself, okay, how does this person act? How would this person act in this moment? What does this person do every day? When this person wakes up, what is his routine? What would he answer in this situation? So you can kind of posit that when you're in a dichotomy, when you have to make a certain decision, that you can have that person live through you. And then it's going to act as your guide, if you will, in these like difficult situations or difficult circumstances, or the prioritization of circumstances and actions. And then you're going to start getting metrics and data. And I understand this is probably related to, like, it's intrinsically temperamental. So like I mentioned, I love this data. A lot of people don't. Like, I've shared this system with friends that are like musicians and things like that. They're kind of more free-spirited people, if you will, go with the flow. And they do find value in it, but they don't look at the numbers as much as I do. I just love numbers.
I was going to say, I feel like as soon as somebody sees visible progression, or like something tangible, then they would immediately become interested. It's just you have to take the steps to like actually go through the process.
Looking at it from a logical lens. Sure, a lot of people are emotionally trapped in cycles. You know what I mean? So
well
Fair.
said. Holy shit.
See, I knew this was going to be a good one.
Yeah,
see.
I had a feeling there. Now, like, what do you think could be something that like an average person who is just getting through life, what's like one major change they could do to get from life? You know what I mean?
solitude, reflection. Blaise Pascal said, "All man's miseries derive from not being able to sit in a quiet room alone."
That's that's very true, because actually we talked about this with it.
He said all man's miseries, not some, not half. He said all.
That's so true, because we were talking about, I think we talked about this with Sabrina.
Yeah,
when she
we
was
did.
on, but just like, even myself, you know, if I'm alone for too long, like, I'll like feel uneasy. I'm like, why is that a thing? Why can't I just sit here by myself and not like feel the need to like call someone or, you know what I mean? Just like, I can't accomplish things because I'm all in my head and I'm like, I'm just fucking alone. Yikes.
Ooh,
It happens.
that's right.
But yeah, but you know what I mean?
Maybe
It's
get
like
a paper
not
towel.
really it's not really a huge deal. At least it shouldn't be. So like, why is it? And you know what I mean? And I definitely know a lot of people that are like, so, yeah, that was a great little tidbit. I can't dump.
That's okay. So, so why you want to spend time in solitude is so you can do self-analysis. You can actually involve yourself in dealings and in habits and in actions that are going to expose yourself your true beliefs and expose yourself your unhealthy habits and your unhealthy behaviors and actions that are usually in overcompensation of a feeling of inadequacy, a feeling of fear, a fear of rejection. For example, you can look at all these beliefs and kind of map why you do what you do. And again, if it's a logical case, like you said, okay, yes, you're seeing numbers. You exercise 3 times this week. You're objectively better. You can look at things in the sense of logic and emotion. So, for example, my New Year's ritual, I don't go out for New Year's. I've been doing the same ritual for about 5 years now. I do this like deep analysis and review of my year, and I can look at, okay, here's all my bad habits over the entire year, and I look at my patterns. So I have like hundreds and hundreds of entries of what could I have improved today, or what was my lowest low this week, or what was my worst habit this week, or what is something I neglected this week. And I can pull patterns. A pattern is defined by me as something that you see more than once. So if I see it twice, like, okay, fear of rejection, or I'm spending too much time on myself, or whatever it is, you can kind of isolate that down to a belief. And then I say, if I'm looking at it logically, I say, okay, yes, I don't like this belief. Why is it still there? And that's an emotional case at that point. And then you have to change it through emotion too. So,
have you found yourself more stoic after like peeling back layers like that?
What do you define as stoic?
As I guess less reactive,
Sure.
more responsive.
Sure. Absolutely.
So you know less of like an emotional reaction to something that somebody said.
Yeah.
I feel like that's very important too. Like a lot of people, you know, and every time I catch myself, like if somebody says something and I'm just get fucking heated, you know what I mean? And like before I, snap back, I'm like, why am I so pissed right now?
Yeah. No, I just wanted to clarify because some people associate stoic with like callous, like emotionally hardened.
Oh,
like
no. I don't mean it. Yeah.
I know.
Oh, yeah.
I just wanted to get that clear.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. See, this one says a person who can endure pain or hardship without showing their feelings or complaining. So that would actually kind of make sense, though, too.
In stride,
Yeah, because if you're looking back at everything you've done over a longer period of time and actually reflecting on it, it's like you're actually becoming more mentally tough in a way because you're trying to. I mean, if you're in the right mental space to be doing that, right? Because like not everyone is ready to look at those bad habits and see, oh, like I played video games for like fucking 10,000 hours this year or whatever. I don't even know if that's possible. And it's like, okay, well, is there a problem there? Like, am I escaping something? Like, not a lot of people would even want to admit something like that. Yeah. So it's like even just...
Yeah, but I wouldn't conflate capacity with tendency.
So explain.
You said most people can't. I think most people can, but most people won't.
Oh, okay. So, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, because I think, dude, a lot of people can make a lot of changes, but I think a lot of people are trapped in their own heads with it.
Yeah.
Well, identifying them too can kind of help you if you know, like it's, so you don't have to leave it up to willpower. Basically, you can create an environment in which you won't do certain things. I feel like,
Yeah.
so it's like, okay, I know that if I have snacks in the house, I'm going to crush them. So I just don't buy snacks. You know what I mean? Like stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's actually congruent with the video. I don't know if either of you saw, I just put it out, I think yesterday.
Yeah. I was watching
Design versus proximity.
Yeah. I think I watched
that.
That was the one with the guy in the brain.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
I did not. I'll have to
Yeah.
check
So
it out.
that's
a good
kind
one.
of related to actually in solitude. So you spend time in solitude to determine what you want to do in your life, and you kind of analyze your circumstances, your environments, your relationships, the people that are involved in your life, if they're conducive to your goals and conducive to your well-being. And a lot of people live life based on proximity, not by design. So, for example, and I said this in the video, you look at people's relationships, look at people's jobs, look at people's careers, their incomes, etc. A lot of people have relationships primarily out of proximity, right? They went to the same school, not like shading you guys. I know you guys went.
No,
you guys met at UConn.
Just throw some fucking
shade
shade
our way.
No, turn the camera off.
No,
We're cutting this part out.
but you guys get what I mean. Like their friends are their friends because they were close to them, not because they are good for them.
Oh, 100%.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's exactly how I feel about Adam. So I'm like glad you brought it up.
Yeah.
You know?
You're
Absolutely.
way too close to me right now.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. As always.
Yeah.
We're not really friends.
But you can fortify this like hypothesis with statistics. You look at self-reported 67% of Americans hate their job. Or I think it's probably like 70%. 67% is people that are unhappy. 2/3 of people over 20 are overweight. So, and you can kind of go down this laundry list of like detrimental habits. So like you go out in the world and you can say, okay, statistically, if I walk out and I just make best friends with somebody, they're probably a bad influence. I know that sounds bad for me to say, but like it's statistically likely. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess that's true. If you're
So-
looking at,
Obviously, context matters, like circumstances where you find them, of course.
Yeah,
and I said
for
that in the
sure.
video too. Like, if I want to find intelligent people, I'll go to a library. I won't go to a club.
Yeah,
There are exceptions. You can find either person in either environment. You know what I mean? But you want to go with your best bet. So that's why you want to spend time in solitude to figure out, okay, I want to embody these traits. I want to embody these attributes. And people really underestimate the influence of their relationships in their outcome of their lives, I think.
yeah.
Greatly underestimate.
Oh
They're
yeah, for
huge.
sure. Like the whole like you are the product of
Yeah.
your 5 most closest individuals that you spend
Yeah,
time
and I
with.
mean, you can even tell. I like even just thinking back of the circle of friends that I've hung out with in periods of time in my life, how my interests have changed
Yeah.
between just
Yeah.
now I'm hanging out with these people,
Yeah.
and so it's hard because at some point, you end up alone. And you're like, all right, well, what am I actually interested in? Because I was interested in this when I hung out with these guys, and this one,
Right.
you know what I mean? So
yeah.
I think it is very valuable to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's definitely underestimated because and the other thing is too is like you see this with relationships with people.
Yeah.
Like they'll be like, "Oh, every girl or every guy I meet is, trash or an asshole or like they're rude." And it's like looking in a mirror there,
Yeah.
kiddo.
They were trash. Why did you date them?
Yeah. And it's like I've even had that like I'm not saying people in my most recent relationships have been trash, but it's just like I've been picking a very particular type of person over and over and over again. And so like I've just been like thinking to myself, like, why am I choosing this type of person? Because it's not leading down the right path, clearly.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I think that it's like so reflective of like what's actually going on in many different facets.
Yeah, we admire or despise in other people what we admire or despise in ourselves. So you're going to see people as mirrors as well. And I just brought that up because, you kind of say it jokingly, like you hear a lot of people say, "Oh, my ex is trash. Oh, this person's garbage, etc." And it's like you saw in them a reflection of yourself. You decided to involve yourself in a consensual relationship with this person, spend time with them, and assuming let's not even go down that route. Assuming let's subscribe to your hypothesis that they are purely malicious and purely evil. Okay, why did you not see that? Right?
Yeah,
why were you so underdeveloped to not be aware of their malicious intent or something like that? So either way, you attract what you are at the end of the day. So
yeah, and there's going to be a lot of people, and by a lot of people, I mean whoever might be listening to this podcast, that would be maybe taken aback by that because like, oh well, everything was great until like my ex cheated on me or something. So like, what do you say to a person that says that?
not a relationship counselor.
I know.
Come on, John. What are the answers?
Yeah, what are the answers?
The answers.
Well, it's
What
it's
do I
human.
say? More time in solitude. That's what I say.
There you go.
Well,
Good.
actually,
Good. You're involuntarily enthralled into solitude. Good.
And
It's true though, man.
That's
You
actually
can't be happy with
that's a
someone
good
else if you can't be
response
happy
though.
with
That's a good
yourself.
response.
No, seriously, yeah.
Wow, that's great.
Full circle.
So what's something that's like so you're doing the Instagram posts, Instagram TV.
Mhm.
What's been your like strategy to kind of, because I imagine like do you purchase this plan? Is this like something that you hit you up for? Like what's involved with like
So the main course, like I said, the main intention to help broken people live more meaningful lives through study and self-discipline. I'm establishing courses for that. What I eventually want to do is like workshops and in-person meetings and things like that.
Okay.
That is still in development. So the main course itself. In the meantime, I do have these things called Down the Rabbit Hole. It's like a series, if you will.
I think I've seen one of them. Yeah.
Yeah, I have 7 now. I just recorded another one this morning, 8. I'm going to release that probably next week.
Cool.
And that's with the intention, like I explore beliefs. I say it in the intro. I explore beliefs under the premise that beauty and fulfillment and meaning are found by looking deeper and not further. So everything is in front of you. You already have everything you need to live a meaningful and purposeful existence and passionate life, but you just don't know how to use the tools, or you're trying to, find these things in another person. You're trying to fill that void in yourself with a relationship, etc. So that's what I do in Down the Rabbit Hole. I take quotes, I take pictures, I take ideas, and I like really look in depth at their implications and their extrapolations to how they can improve your life. So that's something I've done, and I find a lot of enjoyment in it.
Yeah, it seems like you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are like fun to watch. I enjoy them. Like I'll be at
videos
work
that I saw, like,
and I'll like put it almost like a podcast. Like I'll have it while I'm like typing or something. I'm like, and then I'll pause and be like, "Oh, John, that was good. That was good."
Wow.
Well, thank you for watching them.
Yeah.
No, they're
Means a
definitely
lot.
entertaining, and I feel like they definitely provide a lot of value. So
Means a lot.
Sure, we're obviously gonna plug you. So
Cool.
But all right, this is like kind of not related. What are your favorite? I don't even want to say favorite because I kind of hate that. Yeah, well, I don't know. Who are your like collection of your favorite authors? I guess
Authors.
Yeah,
Nietzsche, number 1. How many do I have?
say like three or 4.
Okay, Nietzsche, Dostoevsky, and the third, I'm gonna say Emerson, Ralph Waldo Emerson.
Cool. All
Wow.
right, those are 3 solid choices.
Yeah.
I haven't. Yeah. See, this is where I admit that I
Nietzsche-
haven't read enough.
Did he
You know what I mean?
write the On the Shortness of Life? Was that him or
That's
was
Seneca.
that okay? Seneca. Okay. Wait. There was a book by Nietzsche that I liked.
Ralph
Had a
Waldo
really
Emerson.
long
Is that
time
the?
ago, and I
Wait a
can't
minute.
remember
Is that
what it was.
the? Is that like the 12? Hold up. What's that last guy's name?
Ralph Waldo Emerson.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I have one of his books on tape here.
The 12 what?
Hold up.
He wrote a bunch of essays: compensation, self-reliance, nature, etc.
Okay, I'm thinking of something else.
Okay.
Fuck. Yeah, see, I need to read more. That's actually one thing that I should do as like just like a general goal is like I what was it? Saw a thing. It's like, you read 10 minutes a day. At the end of the year, that's 3,650 minutes, all associated towards reading. And then like 10 minutes is literally nothing. I mean, you could even turn that to pages if you wanted to too, and it's still 3,650 pages.
Dude, 10 minutes turns to 20 minutes
year.
so easily.
Yeah.
Like as long as you just like start doing it, you
Yeah.
just your 10 minutes go by and you're like, well, I'm reading, so I might as well keep reading.
Yeah, because like I feel like I definitely underestimated the impact of reading on your ability to speak and communicate thoughts, because you have just a bigger realm of vocabulary. That's why like someone like Russell Brand is able to communicate in like the exact word. Like he's not saying, "Oh, it's like this." It's he's choosing a word so specific to the exact situation. It's because that fucker reads all the time.
Yeah. It's a powerful thing.
Yeah. Now, wait a minute. What are some like books that are on your like watch list right now that you're like, okay, like this has been just like mind blowing for me? That might be a tough one.
That is, yeah.
Sorry. I know.
So my favorite book of all time is Thus Spoke Zarathustra by Nietzsche. And some other really good ones are Self-Reliance by Emerson. The Kybalion by the author is called The Three Initiates. A bomb would be Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. I think a lot of people aren't ready to hear the shit that's in there though. So
oh yeah, Napoleon Hill. What did
definitely a bomb. Think and Grow Rich, Law of Success.
Yeah, that's how I know Napoleon Hill. Okay.
Outwitting the Devil, that's a bomb for sure.
Okay. Now what makes that a bomb?
Because it deconstructs all the societal norms that we've adhered to for many years and we have faith in. And it
Oh shit! Well, wait a minute. What's like some of them? Like, I want to know.
It just shits on school, shits on religion, shits on teachers, like everything, everything. But I'm not gonna lie, it's all facts. I'm not gonna lie,
Wow.
So yeah, it's just like it places a high emphasis on independent thought. It posits to the dichotomy of a drifter and a non-drifter. It's kind of congruent and synonymous with what I was speaking to earlier. Somebody who lives life by proximity or somebody who lives life by design.
Mhm.
It's kind of related to that a little bit.
So if someone's, and just because this just came up again because you just mentioned it again, but if someone's trying to get out of living life by proximity and living it by design, like, is there something like, because I just feel like it's easy in theory to just be like, oh yeah, live your life by design, don't live it by proximity. And then someone's like, well, how the fuck do I do that? You know what I mean? Like, how can I, like, I know you could just be like, oh, I'm going to go make a friend at the library, but you're just going to walk in and just be like, oh, what's up, dude? You want to be friends? You know, like there's a bit of a, so that's.
Yeah, how did we meet? I randomly walked up to you.
Yeah, it's
at a
actually
college campus.
Yeah, it's because I was
sell you
really
something.
naive at that time. I trusted literally everyone.
No, because I did that hundreds of times, so that's not true. No, so to answer your question, though, I would say Solitude, of course.
You are
again,
pretty naive, though.
Yeah, thank you. See, you know what? Justify my naiveness. Why don't you?
But valuing objective truth and valuing your own ideals over the emotional validation of other people. So a lot of people, I think, live to please other people that would not even attend their funeral. So they're going out of their way to appear a certain way or to sound a certain way or to convey themselves and convey their message in a certain way to please somebody that, again, is not even going to attend their funeral. So it's not even going to matter. Yeah, exactly. And either way, here's something interesting. Again, bringing up Emerson, he said, whatever course of life you decide upon, there is always somebody to tell you that you are wrong. So no matter what you do, people will talk shit. No matter what you do.
Yep.
Like it doesn't matter either way. So the only thing that really matters is like your relationship with your inner self. Like, do you feel justifiably proud of your actions? And are you progressively getting better every single day? Those are the only two things that really matter. Are you proud of yourself and are you getting better every single day? Everything else is, as I say, birds chirping. It's just noise.
True. Gary Vee spits a similar message, actually.
Yeah, he does.
Just why
he does. You like Gary Vee, right?
I've seen a little bit of his stuff.
Okay, yeah.
He's always touting like, why are you like living your life based on what X, Y, Z is?
Yeah, right,
You know what
right.
I mean? Like it's like, your parents want you to do this. Stop taking money from your parents and become independent. Like, do what the fuck you want to do, kind of thing.
Yeah, like why?
It's like his
why
big
does
message?
Yeah, why does like having Gucci this and Gucci that matter if like who are you showing that off
Basically,
for?
live by your means. Like live within your means and like. Work for happiness, not money. Usually, if you're passionate about what makes you happy, money will come, whatever.
Yeah.
So that kind of thing. But
yeah. It's like it's funny that you actually mentioned that whole like, oh, I just like walked up to you because I remember that day like so vividly because it was freshman year and it was just like I was just like sitting there and it was just like a nice fucking day outside and I'm just like sitting down and then like I see this guy, he's like, hey. I think
I had a script. I didn't just say hey.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I don't remember what it was, but it was a
Yeah,
it
you
was just,
you had a whole shindig, and it felt so natural too. He was too good at it. It was like he would sit down and he'd be like, "Oh, like so," because at the time it was
just like that.
Yeah, at the time, he opened his coat and it was full of clocks. You know, he was trying to sell anything in clocks.
Yeah, couple Vimas. Yeah, you took me to one of the. I think actually I saw you at one of the meetings too. Well, Tim was there.
Maybe.
Yeah, Tim, it was like Tim, me, and like I actually think I got a bunch of people from that.
But yeah, I know what you're saying though. It's like it's difficult. It sounds trivial when you put it in that manner. Just just go live your life by design. Go establish that relationship. Go start something. And I'm going to bring up the quote from Jim Rohn, one of my favorites. He always says, "In life, you will pay one of two pains." So in other words, it's ineluctable. You're not going to escape the pain either way. You're going to pay the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. And you always have that choice. And regret is like orders of magnitude more powerful than discipline.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like
pretty powerful.
And I posited this. I did a presentation and I recorded it in a video like years ago, actually. And I said, okay, yeah, sure. Let's take an example of one person. And let's say it's hard to work out. Sure. Yeah, it's hard to eat healthy. Yeah, you can argue it's hard for me to track all my macros. It's inconvenient. It takes a lot of time. I don't eat out with people a lot. I'm very like selective and picky in restaurants. I don't really eat a lot of sweets. Sure, you can say that's difficult. But what's more difficult, that or like me lying on my deathbed in 45 years, staring my family in the face with tears in my eyes saying, I'm sorry I let you down. Like,
Whew.
Yeah.
it's you have to posit a dichotomy
Yeah.
here, and you can't say
it
that.
is a good point though, because like fucking heart disease is real, man.
Yeah.
And you can't just live
690,000 people every year.
Yeah, it
that's
is.
insane.
It's
Number one
Yeah.
killer of death,
Yep.
cause of death.
Yep. And it's like it's that it goes back to like the food debate about what actually causes that. But
Actually, no, I'm gonna disagree there, because 690,000 people, yeah, sure, die by heart disease, but the Center for Disease Control and the American Heart Association conclude that 80% of those deaths are reversible.
Preventable, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Preventable and-
So
which is
the
crazy.
number one cause of death is neglect. That's
Yeah.
my answer.
I 100% back that because I don't know if that's me.
I think
Sorry.
it was you.
Yeah, it is. Shit, I turned on fucking. Anyways,
I think it's like 480,000 if you do the 80% of 690.
yeah.
That's insane though,
Yeah.
is the thing. And it's like, I feel like it's so straightforward, and for
Yeah.
whatever reason, people,
Yeah.
I mean, it's like very, you know, change your habits. It's like very like habit building.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was NASM. They said that like 30 chronic diseases are completely preventable just by like exercising for like 2 hours a week. Can you imagine that? 2 hours a week, 30 chronic diseases completely like negated. And that's just exercise. They said that was independent of diet.
Yeah.
So independent of diet, if you just
That's
fucking
nuts.
like go to the gym and work on like resistance training and not just fucking cardio all the time. Yeah. And like that's just one of those things. Yeah, I do like hearing that though, because that gives me faith for like what I'm doing besides just like vanity goals, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like actually pushing yourself. People ask me like, oh, well, why are you like trying as hard as you can in the gym? I'm like, well, because I actually have a goal to see what my genetic potential
Yeah,
is.
like, are you not curious as to what you're physically and mentally capable of as like a
Right.
person? Like, what happens if you were just maxed the fuck out? You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
feel like that's such like a cool goal, or you know, it's almost unattainable, but it's like that's such like a cool, I guess, philosophy of me. It's like, what if you just went ham at like everything? Like, what could you produce?
Yeah, like
That's congruent with actually my philosophy for training. I've never really had nothing externally justifiable to train for. Like I don't compete or anything like that. People have asked me. I'm in pretty low percent body fat all year round.
oh yeah.
And I've never competed or anything like that. I don't think I ever will.
Yeah, just casual, yeah.
And- fuck you.
Sit at
Make
like
me look like an asshole here.
4%
Yeah,
body fat.
you know, I chill out. I'm like always greased up and oiled.
always,
I'm
always.
always pretty much ready for a show, but like I wouldn't just because, you know. No, sorry,
Yeah,
go ahead.
I mean, it's factually true. But no, anyways, what you're saying, that's congruent with my philosophy. And there's a quote that a friend asked me like to explain why I train so hard. And I gave him that quote from Socrates where he says, it is a shame for man to grow old without seeing the beauty and strength of which his body is capable.
Yeah,
that's
like
such
one
It's
of
a
my
good
shame.
favorite
And
quotes.
he says
Yeah,
like
that's-
no man has the right to be an amateur in the matter of physical training. That's what he
Yeah.
says. Like,
Was
that's
Socrates jacked? Like what did
jacked
he
as fuck.
was
yeah,
he?
Yeah. They're all old rip dudes. Yeah. Yeah. I'm not even kidding. He was like, you look at the painting, he was 79 in his painting. And he's
Really?
like rip. He's got abs. Like
Yeah, well that was also a painting.
sure,
you know.
but no, I believe it because they have.
Hey, could you
it's-
add some more abs? I know I only have 4. Just add a little more.
People got to believe.
I mean, it's
this.
congruent with their philosophy. Like if you
Yeah,
look at
it's
all the
true.
things they're saying, you're gonna be like, okay, he would be hypocritical if they weren't like involved in rigorous physical training regimens.
for
sure.
So
Yeah. And I mean, like you can imagine that like it's not like they had like a McDonald's back then,
Exactly.
you know. It was like they probably had some of like the best quality shit you can have, you know, like they had only farm pastured cows and like, you know, they didn't have this like factory shit that where you have to do these days to feed the billions and billions of people that we have.
But yeah, so to actually coalesce like two of these points that were brought up recently, you're talking about like heart disease and we're talking about neglect and all these things and
Yeah.
like taking a time to disconnect with all the influences of your environment and to design your own life. I think that's very imperative. Or also to coalesce the fact of measurement. So measuring your habits and measuring your performance and measuring your input. For example, to bring these all together, bad habits are mainly adopted through your environment. So let's look at like shitty eating. Let's look at like a night out with your friends after a bar. You're going to go eat shit food because everybody else is eating shit food. Like people typically, like I don't know how people start like shitty habits like smoking cigarettes, but it's more than likely from a group of people. Like, oh, you want to smoke? Or oh,
100%.
like, yeah, you're with somebody. Like no
Like
one
you go out
sets out and is like, I want to smoke cigarettes.
Yeah.
And I'm just
Yeah.
like,
No,
I'm
it's
going to
so
go and look at it. Like you look at this too. Like what type of brand they choose. what type of brand cigarettes they choose, because there's like dozens, right?
Yeah.
It's probably because somebody else showed them that brand. It's
Like their parents.
Yeah,
or,
yeah,
right.
sampled
It
every
wasn't
cigarette
by-
in the shop, and this one tastes the best.
Exactly. You see how foolish that sounds.
Yeah,
Or
it
like
does.
Can't
even
really
the
taste
act of
anything anymore,
even
but-
the act of measurement and planning things out. Let's say meal prepping. Okay, that posits the value of you're thinking of the future in some degree, right? So I'm not gonna like get out my Tupperware and put like pizza and chocolate milk in there. Like that just sounds foolish.
It does.
right?
It does
It
sound
sounds
so
foolish.
stupid.
Weird,
Right, but it's like the
combination,
same.
but-
It's the same thing with the cigarettes.
You know what's
maybe
kind
that.
of, you know what's kind of funny is there was actually the work with this woman, and she brought in like prepped mac and cheese, and I was like,
as like a
I retract my statement.
truthfully though, that might have been like a leftover thing.
Yeah, that's fair.
But the
That's
fact that it was
Okay,
just
yeah, I
like
thought it was, like,
the fact
literally-
that it was like in Tupperware and like portioned out and stuff, I was
She
like,
took time.
yeah, I was like, so you thought
Took
about
an
that.
investment.
Yeah, you could have made something else, but you were
Randy
like,
Special.
nah. Oh, dude, do you know what the Randy Special used to be, John? You're gonna kick out of this.
No.
The Randy Special was a full box of Annie's mac and cheese, a can of tuna, and about 2 cups of broccoli. And I would just eat that.
That's
That was
cool.
my meal of choice in
Yeah.
college.
enough salt
One of
to
those.
kill a horse.
Yeah, dude, it was like, I'm pretty sure just in that was like 2,000 milligrams of salt.
Probably. Yeah.
It was ridiculous. But so hold up, we kind of totally diverged here. But like
Little
you
bit.
said, going back to like bringing everything together,
Mhm.
and like it would be foolish. Like someone wouldn't just like go and like choose to like pack cigarettes and like or you know.
Yeah.
So was there like somewhere else I was going, or did I
No,
diverge you too much?
a lot of the bad choices that we make in our life carry no deliberation. Like they're done unintentionally through our environment. Like it's groupthink. We're not
and
thinking
nobody
for
really
ourselves.
stops to think like,
Yeah,
why the fuck do I do this again?
Exactly.
Yeah, actually, that's such a good point because I remember Matt had like started, not Matt Bulmer, Matt Poulin had started smoking.
Nice. I know we weren't gonna drop last names, but fuck it.
No,
You
'cause
two in
he'll-
one go.
You're really calling people out. Okay.
No. He'll appreciate this. Because he hadn't been smoking cigarettes, and he had started smoking cigarettes when he worked for like car places and like when he was like doing like mechanic jobs. And he's like, yeah, I mean, I started smoking cigarettes so I could take cigarette breaks. I was like, oh shit, like that's an interesting.
Yeah, that's
that's an interesting way to do
I
it.
don't have an analysis for that right now.
I just stumped John. You hear that? I didn't have an analysis for that right now. No, but I remember being like, oh shit, man, like that's a weird way to start like smoking cigarettes, but it kind of makes sense, I guess. Like if you're just tired of like working at the mechanic job there. But imagine someone like going through and being like, oh, I'm gonna try it. Do you have a variety pack? Like Camels, Marlboro.
Exactly.
Nice sampler.
It's just like the craft beers, but it's all like different
Cigarette
cigarettes.
sampler. Damn.
Sweet. Well,
All right.
John, if you were to leave us with one final thing, what would be like something to end on here, so it's not about cigarette packs samples?
Every man is worth just as much as the things he busies himself with. Marcus Aurelius.
There you go.
Okay, holy
There's a lot of
shit.
quotable
Do important shit.
quotes. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, that was great. All right, cool. That was a good little
Sweet.
soundbite for you too. Do you want to plug yourself at all, like any of your pages or channels or anything?
Everything is on my main Instagram, which is Xeno, XEN0_. And then the business page where I post all of my Down the Rabbit Hole videos is Xenotheory, one word. And the website is xenotheory.org.
Awesome.
Cool.
Yeah, go check your stuff out. This was great.
Yeah, that was great, man.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for coming
Love
on.
on it.
It's been lovely.
Of humanity Society is the key.